Hello and welcome to my video demonstration for the assignment using the input function. So the instructions of this are we're going to modify the device logon program to use the input function to populate the values in the dictionary needed to establish a secure shell session to a device. And then once we've done that, we're also going to use some concatenation to print each values, the device type, the IP, the port, the username, the password, and then we're going to ensure the program works by printing the prompt of a device. And here's a little bit more information about the formatting. We're going to have device type : followed by the actual device type value, and so on for the other values. Now this looks a little bit intimidating, but we're going to take this in small little pieces and it should not be a problem. So let's get started. So I've gone ahead and I've taken the device login program and I've X'd out all the values, and now let's take a look at that input function. So we need 5 inputs, but it's going to be kind of hard to test the input function and the program with our device connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new program right here, a new Python file, and what I can do is I can play with this, and then once I get it working right, then I can paste it into the device login program. So let's start with the input function. So the first value I'm going to want, let's go back to here, the first value I'm going to need is the device type. Actually, it's in my instructions also, so let me pull that up. It's right here in my instructions as well. Let me get that out of the way. So let's use the input function. I don't want to use Copilot. And I will just type dtype. I can't use type. Type is actually a reserved word. It's a function, to be honest with you, so I can't really use that. It would get confused. So I'll say dtype. And that's going to be equal to the input function. And when I call the input function, I have to put a string in here so the user gets a prompt knowing what he's expected to input. Input, and we'll say enter device type. And I'll put a colon there, and I'm also going to put a space right here so when the user starts typing, it'll type 1 space after the colon. And I can do this 4 more times. But for now, I just want to make sure I've got this working right. So let me just do print, and I will type device type and a colon. Let me put a space in there and another space here, and then I will concatenate that to the variable d underscore type. So let's just test this and make sure that we have the input function working right and the print function working right. So let's go ahead and run this without debugging. I've got to save it, so we'll just call this test, and I will save it. I've already got a file there named test, but that's okay. And as it executes, it's going to prompt me to enter the device type, so I'll just say BIOS. And it sure as heck, it printed device type BIOS for me. So I've got my input function working right, and I have got the print function. So now I just need to do this a few more times. So I can just copy this, and I need to do it for IP port. I need to do it 4 more times. So the next value is going to be IP. The next value will be port. The next value will be username. And the next value will be password. Now, of course, I need to change my text strings for each one, or people won't know what to type, so this will be. And then the port will be enter port number, and the next one will be username, and the last one will be password. So now I can do the same thing with my print statements. Control C and Control V to copy and paste. So the next one, this will be device IP, and that will be populated with the variable IP, and then the next one will be device port, and that value will be port, and the next one will be name, and I will say name is the variable that will populate, and then the last one will be password, and I will populate that with PW. So now I can test this again and make sure that we have our input functions and our print functions all working right. So let me go and run this one more time. Actually, I always like to close my terminal before I run it, so I've got a nice clean terminal to look at. Sometimes it's hard to know where you are in the terminal. So it's asking me for the device type, and I'll say BIOS, and the address 1.1.1.1, and the port number I can just use 1111. Username can be name, and password can be password, or just pass. And it did indeed print all of those values out in the format I wanted, so that's great. So now the next step I can do is I can just take and copy and paste this all into my real program. Now that I know this code works, I need to declare these variables before I can use them. So the device type, the IP, all of that needs to be created before I can reference them in my dictionary that's used to actually create the connection. So now instead of string literals, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use variables, d_type, and instead of a actual address, I'll just use the variable IP, and the variable port will go right here, and the username can be name, and the password can be PW. So now I've got my connection. It's going to get populated with the values that are created up here. And actually I can even click on here, and if I click on a variable, it will highlight all instances of that variable just to double check. And I don't see any squiggly lines, so far so good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is my print, and I'm going to change my comment here. This is going to print everything. Print everything. I'm going to print everything. So I've got my print prompt, but the instructions say to do something device prompt, so I'll have to come back to that. Now I'm going to actually get rid of that. I'm going to go back to my test program, and here are the values that we need to print. So let me copy that, and I'll come back into here, and print that. So there's my print statements that I've already tested. Now the last thing I need to modify is the prompt, because I want to actually say in here the device prompt followed by the prompt. So I'll come right here and I'll say device prompt, and I'll hit a space and hit the prompt. And one last thing, I need to do the plus symbol there for the actual value. One last thing I want to do is just want to execute this just to keep these values hidden. I'm going to move the space bar out to everything. It'll just make it easier for me to hide it later. So I'm just going to add some more spaces, and then when we execute this, I'll be able to conceal all of it at once. But for the real program, you wouldn't need to do that. So now we should have this working. Let's take a look and see what happens. So I'm going to kill my terminal, and now I'm going to run the program. And I will run it without debugging, and it will ask me for the type. I'll type the device type, and then the IP address, port number, followed by the name and the password. And we should get logged in and we should have success. And there you have it. So I hope this demonstration has been helpful for you, and thanks for watching.